Hello, John Laubacher and Brandon Natsky here to talk to you a little bit about A Framework for Understanding Poverty by Dr. Ruby K. Payne. First off, as an introduction, we just want to let you know that coming from upper and middle level class homes, it's kind of hard for us to understand some of the perspective that our lower income families bring and our students and the different attitudes that they bring to the classroom. This book helped bridge a lot of the gaps that we didn't understand, and now we can understand a little bit further just by diving into the book and really finding out what can we do to make their educational careers go much smoother and help them bridge the gap between their life at home and their life at school and how they can make it a lot better. So poverty, first off, is relative. It occurs in all races, ethnicities, and countries. Generational poverty and situational poverty are very different. We'll touch on that later on. There's different rules. So a student may have a set of street rules and house rules, but it's our job to teach them those school rules. And again, we'll get into that later on. This is just a short introduction as to why we need to teach them about these hidden rules and how they don't necessarily mix, but how they can depending on how they act in the school. To move from poverty to middle class or middle class to wealth, an individual must give up relationships for achievement. And that is kind of hard to do. 4 reasons to leave poverty is because it's painful to stay, a vision or goal, a key relationship or a special talent or skill. It's hard to leave a lot of the things that you knew as home. Whenever you're so used to a lot of things, it's hard to just up and leave something that you knew as home, especially whenever it's taught to you inherently. Some stats that may surprise you: in 2003, the poverty rate for all individuals was 12.5%, which equals out to about 7.6 million families, which is quite a staggering statistic. Poor inner city youths are 7 times more likely to be the victims of child abuse or neglect, which is something that's entirely unacceptable. So Brandon Natsky will pick up where I left off.
Yeah, just going through the book and just kind of seeing some of the stuff that really just stuck out to me. You'll see in chapter 1 how it talks about just resources that students will have, that kids will have, and it goes through scenarios. Just talking about Maria and her family and the scenarios that they went through. Talking about maybe being a divorce and having all these kids, and so having the proper resources behind you to help you to be able to overcome some of those situations. And so we as a teachers, how can we make sure our students have physical, emotional, role models, things of those nature. So just understanding that aspect of it. And another big thing that the book talked about is just how important language is, and just the fact that, students who are in more poverty areas, they don't get the formal register that other students, that middle class and wealthy students may get, and they get less vocabulary on a daily basis. And so as an educator, just doing our part to be able to teach them that language and teach the different ways of how that can be done, the formal manner and the casual manners of conversation are definitely big topics. And then really the big things that really stuck out to me was just talking about the hidden rules and cues and stuff. I mean, it's something that I never really even thought about, because, I guess it's like the book, it tries to teach us that the test that is in the book with dealing with those is to teach us what we take for granted. So, something that I take, it's something that I don't deal with. I don't have to worry about, what's the shortest route to walk to school today, or, how can I, use these knives to cut open this, bag because I don't own scissors, I don't have the proper tool, things like that, stuff that I don't have to deal with on a daily basis, makes you see as an educator, like what you have to do, what you have to be able to notice on your students and understand to be able to teach them to do better. And then just, generational poverty and situational poverty are two just completely different things. I think generational poverty is such a huge thing just because families get stuck in it. And so being able to encourage students to not be stuck in the same routine, to not let that, what the decisions that their grandparents, that their parents or whatever made, to continue to live in their life. And so understanding that and just seeing what we can do as a teacher to kind of help that and just, teach them, and then just being that role model and providing emotional need, resources, because students are having to grow up too fast in poverty homes, and they don't get to be just a child and an adolescent and then an adult. They could jump straight to an adult. Just those emotional needs and development is just all messed up. And so some things it's hard. So John, just go ahead.
So chapter 6 kind of touches on the support systems. And generally, when we talk about support systems, there's about 7 different categories. You have coping strategies, you have options during problem solving, information and know-how, temporary relief from emotional, mental, financial, or time constraints, connections to other people or resources, positive self-talk, and procedural self-talk. And a lot of these support system categories can be supported through the school system through, even something as simple as having the poverty-stricken students have the same teacher for 2 years in a row can help eliminate a lot of the emotional stress that comes with building new relationships. Teaching them coping strategies is a great way for them to become self-reliant and not feel so overwhelmed about it, because whenever you force a student to go straight from child to parent, they don't really get that transition to adulthood before they become the parent, and that can be kind of rough. So teaching them to use their adult voice rather than just the student or parent voice will be a great transition to help them learn how to act in a school, which kind of touches on the discipline that needs to be self-taught. Whenever you look at a child's behavior, you understand that they have a set of street rules, they have a set of house rules, but you need to teach them the set of school rules and how to use their adult voice whenever they're in school so that they can communicate their ideas clearly without having to involve the social cues that the teachers such as myself or Mr. Natsky may not pick up on. And that's going to take a lot more work and care on the teacher's end. And whenever you have a student who is so resilient and understands that being tough is only really the way to survive, you need to teach them that that's not necessarily the way in school. And that can kind of affect their advancement in their educational career. So it's our job to make them understand that just because they may not be doing as well in the tests as their peers doesn't mean they're not as intelligent. Just because they don't know, the different aspects behind the Pythagorean theorem doesn't mean they're not smart. It means that they are smart in different ways. I don't know what a bail bondsman is or how that works, but a student who is 10 years younger than me will know exactly how to do that depending on the type of household that they're used to growing up in. And these are the kind of things that we need to build into our students with the relationships that we build as teachers. Cognitive strategies that must be built are input strategies, elaboration strategies, and output strategies. And even examining something as intricate as the eye movements of the student, and you find that on page 98 and 99, can help you better understand what they're doing, how they're processing the information, and the different ways that they learn, so you can better teach them the different educational aspects of their careers. Chapter 9 talks a lot about the building relationships between the student and the teachers and the different people around them, and really that comes down to you putting in the time, care, and effort.